The AEW Continental Classic is getting close to an end with the final matchups coming up at World's End is this weekend. We'll discuss that. And everyone seems to want a piece of Roman Reigns. That much and more. Timekeeper, ring that bell.
Welcome to the And Still a Wrestling Podcast, your weekly podcast covering the latest in the world of professional wrestling.
All right, what's up, everybody? And I hope everyone has had a Merry Christmas and a safe and happy holiday. We are back here at And Still, a wrestling podcast. I'm your host, Morgan, along with Drew and the Oracle, Kevin. And we're going to talk all things AEW and some things WWE. And obviously leading up to the biggest pay-per-view of, well, the end of the year, I guess, because it's the World's End. And that is airing this weekend, Saturday, December 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll maybe find out more about the devil and other things to come to an end, like the Continental Classic, which we hate to say goodbye to because, man, it has been absolutely amazing. We'll talk about that and a ton. But let me say hello to everybody. Drew, Kevin, welcome in. Happy holidays. I hope you had a good weekend and got all the gifts. Kevin, did you get the gift that you really wanted?
You know, Shayna dressed up as Mrs. Claus, and she unwrapped my package, if you know what I mean, boys.
Why do you leave this open for him?
Why did I even ask? I should have never done that. All right, let's start over. I'm the editor, so I might could.
No. I'm just thinking, like, is he Christian Cage at this point?
Yeah, he is definitely. He's turning into Christian. He could be Christian Cage's patriarch.
Or like, are you scripting him?
Yeah. You know what? As you guys know, first of all, Merry Christmas, gentlemen. Glad to see you guys. As you know, I'm back north, so I'm in the Great White Tundra of New Hampshire, visiting friends and family, and it's been a trip. It's certainly been a visit. It's not a vacation. I go from house to house, and I eat from restaurant to restaurant, literally. So that's not my favorite thing, but I'm here and I'm doing it, and I'm happy that it's coming to an end soon. But you know what? It was a very good week of professional wrestling. I did catch Collision Live and Dynamite, and both shows are very good. And I'm looking forward to getting into that this week. Drew, what do you got going on?
Nothing much. Like, I'm just happy to. It's like, how do I word that rightly? It's like, I don't have a lot going on, and it makes me happy that I don't have a lot going on. It's like, I've been off work, and I can actually sleep, and it feels great.
Excellent, man. Excellent.
Off work is a good thing. I ended up taking this week off. I don't normally take this week off just because typically a lot of people do take this week off. And then when you're like the only person there, it's actually quiet for once. And I feel like I actually could get work done. But this time around, I had a ton of vacations saved up. So way too much because I didn't do anything during the COVID time period back a couple of years ago. And it just kind of kept building up and snowballing. So I told my boss, I said, I got to get out of here. And so this week is going to be a bunch of me playing a Nintendo Switch because I just got one for my daughter. So the biggest joke of the holiday season was that I'm going to be Max Verstappen at the Mario Kart because I'm just not going to let anybody win, especially her. You can never, as a dad, you truly cannot let your children win Mario Kart. You have to destroy them, any chance you get. So that,
as long as you don't play online. It's like the second you play online, you realize it's like you're gonna beat you'll beat your family just fine. But then you're gonna go online, and then you're gonna and if you get like the global thing and stuff like that, are in for a world of hurt when you are absolutely destroyed by a bunch of 6-year-old Japanese schoolgirls every match.
Ouch! Yeah, I think I'll stay away from that. It's that and Mario Party. That's another one we got, and so
Friend Destroyer.
See, she's Friend Destroyer. Is that what that?
Oh yeah, like it's like nothing in the world of video games. And explaining this mainly for Kevin, who probably isn't totally.
I've never heard of it.
Never.
Yeah,
Nope.
Mario Party is the game that ruins friendships.
Well, see, here's the thing. Like I was up 2 stars and 400 coins. I had like more coins than anybody. It was crazy. And I was like, okay, this is an easy win for me. Well, then at the end of the game, we had it set to where you can get bonus stars. And at the end of the game, they give you bonus stars for the dumbest things. Like, did you move the least amount of spaces? You get a star. Did you lose the most mini games? You get a star. And my daughter was both of those, and so she got 4 stars out of it. And I'm like, you got to be kidding! So she won the game because she was the worst performer.
Kevin, it's like basically in a nutshell, it's like Mario Party's the game where it's like you perform your absolute best and then you get beat by a guy who beats you on participation trophies.
Yeah, that's what
it sounds like. Everybody gets a star for participating.
Well, you can turn that setting off, by the way. So I think next time around, I'm turning that off. No bonus stars for being the worst. Come on, that's not.
So does nobody play Sonic the Hedgehog anymore? Miss Pac-Man, is that not apropos?
We do have Nintendo Online, so I think that they have that. Like you can add that as it was part of the package that I bought had like 3 months of Nintendo Online, so I think you can.
Look, I would say I don't know about them, but I mean, like I've got every one of my systems are probably set up with one of those either Sega Genesis or Namco things because I'll go back to Pac-Man and Sonic the Hedgehog in a minute.
We visited the world's largest arcade, which just happens to be up in New Hampshire, and it's something I've been going to since my childhood. But it's a throwback, so any old game you can think of from the '80s, plus some of the newer stuff. But yeah, it's 3 floors and it's a ginormous arcade. We went there. I think it was Saturday. Very quiet, but it's neat to see all those games still up and running. And it's like I said, it's been there since I think the '60s, if I'm not mistaken. And you walk in there, and there's a very distinct electronic smell that will never go away as long as those games exist. But obviously, as time goes on, parts for those games are getting more and more difficult. So a lot of them are now behind glass. So they have 4 or 5 that are the classics that you just can't touch anymore because they're just worth too much money and or they don't work. So, but it's good to see. You know, it hits you in the feels kind of thing.
Wow.
So,
oh yeah, we talked about that with Lisa and I. So she said if I ever put an arcade machine in the cabinet in here, she's like, "What game would you get?" And it's like, weirdly enough, I tell her it's like I would get Galaga. And she's like, "Yeah, really?
That's Aaron's favorite." Yep.
Yeah, like not Ninja Turtles, not this. Like, no. It's like I can always go back to Galaga and be happy.
You know,
all you can do is walk across the driveway and come on over.
I didn't really grow up with that game, but I went on a vacation one time to Pigeon Forge in Tennessee, and they had that in the basement of that cabin, and man, it was like. You want to talk about ruining friendships. I mean, you go battle against that. I mean, like the guy that we went with, their family, he was a little bit older than me, and he grew up on it. I mean, and he was just destroying me in the high score. I mean, there was no way I could ever beat him in that. It was crazy, but I can see how competitive those things can get, especially the arcade style where you're like, okay, try to beat my high score, and then you're the winner of the household. Let's get into some AEW. This is some good caca. We could probably turn this into a video game conversation, but let's go some high level of the results from December 20th till now, because we're recording as of right now. It's the day after Christmas, December 26th, and I think there were some good matches from AEW. We'll look at Dynamite, we'll look at Rampage, and then Collision at a high level. And then we'll kind of like get into the more detailed stuff like the Continental Classic. There's a ton of matches Continental Classic wise. So I want to kind of keep them separate because I don't want to just only – because we could probably spend an hour on Continental Classic. So I don't want to just only talk about that. I want to talk about the other things too because these cards, these past couple of weeks, fellas, I mean the past couple of shows have been an interesting mix of talent. And I just want to get your thoughts too. So let's look at AEW Dynamite, December 20th. You've got obviously the Continental Classic. I'll go through those 3 matches that they did. They ended up doing 3 that night. Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe, John Moxley, Jay White, Swerve Strickland, and Roosh in those 3 matchups there. Of that group of Continental Classic there, any thoughts there looking back on those 3 matches? Just like I said, high level from the Holiday Bash at Dynamite. Swerve Strickland defeated Roosh by pinfall. Mark Briscoe defeated Jay Lethal, and Jay White, surprisingly, in my opinion, defeated John Moxley. I honestly thought Moxley was going to be undefeated.
So It was very interesting. I think that Jay White going over Moxley was smart. They're protecting Jay now a little bit. I think it's a little bit of payback for the way that they exposed him with MJF. I think they kind of shit all over him, and they're kind of paying him back for that now, which is good. I thought that Jay White and Mark Briscoe was excellent. We did talk last week thinking that that was going to basically steal the show, and I'm not quite sure it stole the show, but it was very good. I mean, considering all of the battles that those guys have been through and the fact that they're on their backsides of their career at this point, I thought it was an excellent showing. However, the Roosh and Swerve Strickland match was good, but we're getting so deep in this tournament now that these guys are banged up, and you're starting to see that. They're not pulling out as many stops as they were in the beginning, and it was a good, solid match. But Roosh was selling the fact that his thigh is taped up, and he actually, I think he gave out once or twice, if I'm not mistaken. I think Swerve is the freshest guy in the competition, and I thought it was very smart that they opened the show with him because he's one of your top over stars, and it just set the pace for the night. I thought the crowd was fantastic throughout the show. They never quieted down. They seemed to always be on their feet. It was really good. I mean, shit, the Grinch was front row, so that wins it for me right there. Yeah, I thought it was a good show, but I didn't think anything really stood out. I didn't think there was a 5-star match, but they were all solid matches, and it was a very easy show to watch for 2 hours.
I was going to say, I thought, honestly, the Roosh Swerve match was absolutely fine. I can understand where you're going with that because I could definitely believe that. And I actually think that does the Continental Classic more favors to showing that, like, hey, we're getting towards the end of this thing and these guys are starting to show wear and tear. Yeah, Briscoe and Lethal, man, we are not giving that match its flowers because, did it steal the show? No, it did not. But, they definitely went out there and put on a really good match, and it deserves recognition for how good of a match it was. And I agree with you on that, too. It's like with Jay White beating Mox, it's like I thought this was probably the best thing to make the tournament even better. I mean, you got to remember, wrestling's all about not just putting on a good match, and but it's got to be entertaining. And I don't think you would have had as much entertaining value as Moxley just sweeps the entire Gold League like that. Jay White, and like I said, it does Jay White a whole lot of favors. You just went out there and, got pinned Mox clean. That's a big deal in AEW.
Yes. Yep. I mean, he is, I think if he's not, he's either the top or one of the top winningest performers in 2024 or 2023. So to get that win back, and again, I'm sure this is payback from Tony to be able to put him over to at least elevate him and use him in the future. Otherwise, I mean, if you were Jay White, would you stay around after you were treated the way you were treated in that MJF program? I sure wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's like after that whole MJF program, I would have had to have them come to me and say, don't worry, we have a plan.
Right. Yep, I agree.
Which obviously they did, looking back. I mean, they made him look a lot stronger this time through Gold League here. John Moxley 12, Swerve Strickland 12, Jay White 12, and they will face off actually tomorrow at Dynamite's New Year's Smash in Orlando, Florida. So they had the gold matches the Gold League matches last Dynamite, and they're going to finish it up in this Dynamite. With the two finals.
So can I ask a question? And I brought this up in chat with you guys earlier this week. About 2 weeks ago, Tony Schiavone said if we had a tie, the tiebreaker would be the shortest match times combined. How did we wind up with the 3-way tie?
I agree with you. I feel like that you might have to look that up to confirm that they actually said that, but I was a little bit disappointed that they just end up doing a 3-way match because I feel as if, one thing about AEW is they don't have a lot of TV time and they have a lot of talent. So they do tend to fill the ring up a lot. And this is just another scenario where they're doing a 3-way. 3-way is not nearly as bad as what they usually do sometimes where you get like 8 guys in there. But, I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't some sort of technicality or something to kind of, because if you have a technicality, that eliminates someone, i.e. Florida State University, then you have like a fan base that is upset, or like a following that feels like their talent was not, given a fair shake. So, then they have a storyline for tomorrow, whereas this is just throwing everybody that has the same points in as the final. I didn't really expect that.
So let's pontificate on that for a moment. It's going to be three-way, and we're assuming it's a sudden death, like a fatal three-way. This is a way for them to put someone over and protect the other person that doesn't technically lose. And if you look big picture, Swerve pins Jay White, protects Jon Moxley. That's how I see this going. What do you guys think?
Why do you want to protect Jon Moxley?
Because they gave him one loss. They don't want to give him another loss.
Jon Moxley's their guy.
That's right. You keep him strong this way. So the three-way gets out of the fact of a clean pinfall, because, like you said, you can't have a technicality. This is a no interference kind of setup, and they've been really good with that. Although Daddy Magic on commentary when Garcia is out there, that kind of like breaks the rule of nobody outside. I mean, granted, he's on commentary, but I in my mind, this is perfectly clear to me. We're going to get a really good three-way match, and we're going to see Swerve go ahead by getting the pinfall on Jay White, and Jon Moxley will be protected because he won't lose. How do you guys feel about that?
You want my opinion? I think Moxley's the guy that goes over in this.
Okay. I don't want to see that.
I don't
personally
either, but I think it's like, I think I know where we're going with this, and for some reason I think that involves Mox goes over on the Gold League here.
And you're assuming he's going to fight Danielson?
No, I'm assuming.
Okay, hold it. Don't let it. Yeah. We'll get there.
You asked that, though. You asked the question.
Yeah.
He asked the question. He's like, whoa, I don't want to
cross that bridge here in a second.
He said, he asked the question. He's like, I don't want to know the answer. Wait. Okay, so Drew's already given us a little bit of a light behind the scenes there for his thoughts.
No, just simply, do you think you'll go Danielson? And it's like, we'll say, no.
Okay.
So I know we're going to get there, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm going to be in the air when Dynamite is on. So don't reveal it to me.
Oh, I'm
when I get home.
Crap out of you.
When I get home, I'm going to watch it on delay. So I'll watch it either Wednesday night or Thursday morning. Please don't ruin it.
You need to have self-control of not checking your text. All right, how about that?
I've been really good with not going to social media until I watched both episodes here. So, but no, I think it's going to be a 15 to 18 minute match, and I think ultimately we're going to see Swerve go over and become the next star. That's how I see this being set up. I think this is Swerve's tournament to lose at this point, but we'll talk about was it the blue bracket or is it the gold bracket? What's Collision?
Collision was the blue league.
Okay.
So
depending on how we feel about that, I'll give my feeling on that when we get to that.
Right. So we'll hang tight for the Continental Classic because again, I know, like I said, it could take up the whole show. So I do want to give the other parts of the shows and the other talent their respect here. On the front of the poster for AEW Dynamite for that night in Oklahoma City was Saraya versus Rio. Now Rio is coming back. I was actually shocked by this because I guess it just goes back to the age, but Saraya, has she not turned into basically Jay Lethal, where Jay just loses all the time? And Saraya, to me, is, I mean, like, I know she can't go because of her body, but also I want her to be on TV because of that same area of her talent and expertise. So I'm like, man, she to me
Morgan,
is a very good talent.
There's something there,
to be losing. I'm trying to wordsmith my way out of this here.
It's interesting, I've given that some thought. My guess is she's probably not cleared to do a full-time schedule, and they're using her as a attraction more so than a talent. And I bet that she's okay in the position that she's in doing these spots. So she's more of an attraction. And again, she's being protected because of her neck. We all know that she was put out potentially forever for a neck injury.
Yeah.
So having her come back and just.
But like, part of me is just like, I'm sitting there like, I hear you that she should be one of those, like, in case of emergency, break glass. It's like we can, send her out there as a special attraction, stuff like that. But I do agree with Morgan in the sense of like, why does it still feel like a throwaway thing for her being here?
It did feel like kind of like, wow, this is to me one of the people that I want to see on TV, and
it would be like you. It'd be like you
right,
cutting Sting out for a match, to get over something MJF's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I like Rio, but I do feel like that she is, I don't want to take away from anything that she does, because she actually is a good wrestler in a lot of ways, but she is also, to me, very gimmicky. I mean, she is, very, very small, tiny. She probably plays up to that anime, type of fan that I'm not. So I don't get the appeal. I'm gonna, a different type of wrestling fan than that. But I just feel like,
ask Kenny.
I know Kenny would like destroy me on this. I know, because she deserves respect. I mean, I'm
pretty sure Kenny Omega's high on her.
She hits moves that are like, wow, I can't believe someone that size can hit those moves. So I give her that respect. But then again, I'm like, man, like, when you see it on TV, it just feels gimmicky. It feels like Saraya, in a real battle would beat her. I mean, I don't know.
So let me ask you, since Saraya has returned to the ring, what have you seen her do that reminded you of the talent that she had in the WWE 6 years ago?
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, other than just being
and that just tells you, yes, she's eye candy. She's collecting a paycheck, and she can go on occasion. They're being used as an attraction. So in that statement, I don't see Saraya going over here. I see Rio going here, because there's really no storyline to Saraya. She's already had the championship. They gave it to her in Wembley in front of 81,000 people. How are you going to top that? They gave her flowers. Now she needs to, and Morgan, you hate this, but she needs to raise that young talent.
That's true. That's the role she needs to play. I guess it goes back to just, as I'm getting older myself, I'm starting to realize, hey, there's things that I can't do, but there's also like the people that I looked up to in that sports world, they can't do what they used to could do. And so I have to, mentally, I have to say, the people that I thought were like the best of the best, or the top at the time that I was into it, now are not there.
Can I argue a point, and I'm going to be the negative one here, I guess?
Be negative.
Well, you said, like, is she on par with anything she did in WWE? And I'm like, well, here's the question. When she wrestled in WWE as Paige, it's like, was there anything about, it's like, was Paige really like doing anything super impressive back in the day? I mean, really, I've questioned that, where it's like, did Paige stand out because she was actually a superb wrestler, or did she stand out because she was there at the end of the, era of like the Divas era, and that she's out there with the Bella Twins and all them? And it's like, and then like I said, when the 4 horsewomen show up, she kind of doesn't, she loses her luster.
She's that emo goth girl that bridged that gap between the Bellas and the Horsemen. She was that emo girl that she was just a basically filling the gap. You're right, because she didn't really fit in with the Horsemen, and she didn't really fit in with the Bellas.
Well,
so they called her up from NXT. They called her up from NXT. She won the belt the first night.
Yeah,
she was 18. She was jet black hair, pale as a ghost. She didn't look like what the current product was on TV, and she just bridged that gap to the next generation. She did her job. Unfortunately, she got severely injured, and obviously Tony has found a way to get her medically cleared, and he uses her sparingly, and I'm okay with that. So,
I think she could have been medically cleared in WWE. I just think it's like, I think they
don't want to take the risk. Why take the risk? Do you want that on your hands?
That's the difference. Is WWE is like, I don't want to take I'm sure it's the same with Bryan Danielson. I'm sure it's the same with a bunch of them, that they're like, I just don't want to take the risk on this. And AEW's like, we don't care. We'll take the risk.
Yeah, clearly. And it's the same doctor that's cleared all these people that were medically never cleared to wrestling again. So
yeah.
We talked about it before. He's a billionaire. He's got all the toys in his box, and he takes them out and plays with them. And I'm okay with that. I'm entertained as hell. So
I think we set our piece on the women's world championship. I guess that was for the number one contender. Surprisingly enough, Rio won that. And
dude, hey, quick, if we're talking about this match, do we want to call attention to what was happening during Pitcher with Timeless Tony Storm?
Where help me out here because I watched it on a replay, so I saw it all.
I think Morgan posted it, where the thing where she's talking about where it's like they're like giving the whole thing about, it's like, Saraya, she seems like a pretty angry individual, and then like Timeless is like, it might be that time of the month. It's like, when we were all together as the Outcasts, it's like we did all sync up, and so it's like if I'm going, she's probably going, and you can hear Excalibur and all them just like, I don't know what to do.
That was, funny and gross.
I don't know if there's anything more entertaining than her in that character right now in the professional wrestling world.
Yeah,
she has gone so deep. And you know what, too? I'm kicking myself in the ass because we had the opportunity to meet her up at whatever that comic store is, and we passed on it. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now I wish I had taken that picture and met her. I know, but you know what? She's doing some of the best work I've seen in years out of any character. It's so good, and she's so good at it. The interview with Renee, even Renee's got it down. She's like, what is it? Tits up, ass out, watch for the shoe. And the shoe goes flying, and Renee ducks. Yeah. Fantastic. Good stuff.
Yeah, so the rest of Dynamite, we obviously had some more build up to the AEW World Championship. A vignette of Wardlow was aired where, he was threatening Max, not really knowing what he's going to play into it, but he said, your sins cannot be delayed any longer. So something's building up there to where he's got to be involved. I mean, before the end, we're getting closer to your world ender as well. And then Samoa Joe comes out to the ring, who is currently lined up to face MJF. So
I have really lost steam on the whole devil angle. The way that they're watering this down by sending out complete jobbers in masks to surround the ring and not do anything. Yeah. How many henchmen did we see the other night? 20? And when they just got thrown out of the ring, they just laid flat. If they don't pay this off at World's End on Saturday night, I'm kind of losing interest.
I think we've reached the point, and this is kind of a crucial point on it too, is that we've now definitely gotten to that stage where it's like, whatever the payoff is, you guys have to hit a home run or this is going to be really bad for you.
I totally agree. This could be the nail in their coffin for the end of the year if they don't pay this off well. This has got to be more than just Luke Perry or
Jack Perry.
I don't feel very confident, to be honest with you. I mean, I do feel like that it has to be more, like you said, like it has to be something to do with Adam Cole. I mean, to me, it has to be more than Wardlow as well. I worry that they have MJF. If you look back, he needs a good partner too. Like, he's still not the be all end all as he makes himself out to be, especially as more of a baby face. To me, he had good opposites. And what's his opposite right now? I mean, his opposite is somebody we don't know, is a mystery person that, again, Kevin, you're like, if it's Jack Perry, this is the worst idea ever. If it's Wardlow, it's not that good of an idea. If it's Adam Cole, honestly, Adam Cole has disappeared. So that's kind of fizzled out. I mean,
he's the invisible hand, though, and I still think that I still think it's Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, Wardlow, all of these people as a unified front will be the devil, and sets up
exciting though.
Well, it sets up MJF for a year. He's got 5 guys to go through basically, and not including Samoa Joe, because we know that Joe's going to get him at World's End. We're not going to talk about predictions yet, but I think the buzz of the devil has worn off. And that's unfortunate because they had lightning in a bottle there, and they weren't able to pay it off at the last pay-per-view. And I knew this. You guys thought we were going to get the payoff then. It was too soon. But in hindsight, this is too long. We needed something in between. Everybody isn't talking about the devil anymore. It's kind of like passé. And again, to your point, if it doesn't pay off strong, this is a death knell for them.
We're getting to the point now too where it's like we've had so little of a they've dragged it out so long that I've begun to question the fact is like, what if Adam Cole's ankle really is hurt? Because the longer we keep dragging this out, the more it feels like I figured there would be this big payoff if it turned out his ankle was A-okay, but now it's like, God, it feels like we've given him forever to heal that ankle up. Maybe it was really hurt after all.
That was September, if I'm not mistaken. So it has been 3 months, but supposedly he's had numerous surgeries. So we'll have to wait and see.
I thought that'd be one of the coolest things. It turned out the ankle was fine all the way, but now it's going to turn into one of those. It's like, well, it's been, like you said, 3.5 months. The ankle could have healed by now.
Right. Yep. So yeah, it could have been a much easier injury than they're saying it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we kind of beat up Dynamite here. Let's look at Rampage. And
you mean Collision?
No, that was Dynamite. Let's look at Rampage. Okay. December 22nd. They still do Rampage, Drew. Did you know that?
Oh, that is a thing, isn't it?
This was Rampage Holiday Bash. Probably the only person to watch this was the Oracle. Outside of,
I didn't see it this week.
Outside of a couple of highlights of Sky Blue, who is now, as we mentioned,
fully full dockside. Fully
aligned.
dockside. Not only that, she's developing a badonkadonk. She's put on a pound or two, Morgan. She's got a little something going on there now. And yes, she's fully converted. There is no more Scooby-Doo. She doesn't highlight her eyes blue.
Yes.
She is full on black.
Dominatrix. Yes. She has changed that. I think that, it's a good move for her. There were a couple of other matches there. I didn't even see it, to be honest. Rampage to me is the forgotten child, is the redheaded stepchild. And they're done. And even when you look at some of their promotional stuff, it's like, AEW Dynamite's going to have this, and this, A, B, and C. By the way, we've got Rampage this Friday. Oh, and also on Saturday, it's going to be X, Y, and Z. It's like they don't even really say what's going to be on Rampage, so you don't have anything to really look forward to. I guess the biggest thing is, Kevin, I think you saw this one, though. It was Vikingo versus Black Taurus. I think you saw.
No.
You didn't see
No, I
it?
saw last week.
You saw last
with
week.
the 6-man.
Mm.
Yeah. How was Vikingo and Black Taurus?
I did not. Oh, I didn't say it right. I'm sorry. Gosh, he's not a Ford.
And it's El Hijo del Vikingo.
He's not a Ford motor vehicle here. I'm sorry.
That's right.
He doesn't drive a police
Viking
car.
versus Taurus. Because
He's not
America.
He's not an unmarked police car. Yeah, I think.
Do you guys know Opie and Anthony? Have you ever heard of Opie and Anthony?
Yep.
The radio guys. They were big in Boston, and they did a radio spoof. The name of the dealership was Clee. Come on down, and we'll find your Clee Taurus. That's right, you'll find your Clee Taurus down here at Clee Motors. It was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Sorry,
I've never been able to find one of those.
Yeah.
Anyways,
right?
AEW Collision.
Morgan. Sometimes it's better to let people think you're stupid than to open your mouth and prove it. Okay.
Yeah, I've always been a. Anyways, AEW Collision. We can skip past Rampage. It really wasn't. I mean, I'll give them some respect. Orange Cassidy, Rocky Romero, the Hardys versus the Kingdom, Sky Blue versus Queen something, and then Chris Statlander speaks, and Vikingo versus Taurus. So
Black Taurus. Who won that match?
I'm assuming Vikingo. I haven't.
Well, so it would have been okay. So this was because they had that pay-per-view match, and it was in Ring of Honor, and it was fantastic.
Yeah,
hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
He splashed him with a 630 senton and pinned him.
Okay, so that's 2 times he's put down Black Taurus. Okay, yeah,
Except,
the pay-per-view match.
Just Taurus this time, I don't know.
Well, was he in the black or was he in the white?
I think he was in the black.
Okay.
I mean, he
Well,
was
you
called
drinking
Black
Mox? It
Taurus.
is.
He was
Are
called
you drinking
Black.
Moxie?
Say what?
Are you drinking Moxie?
No.
Oh.
It's like I'm drinking a staple of Michigan tradition. Good old Faygo.
Oh, okay. Blueberry Faygo?
No, Rock and Rye Faygo.
That was a rap reference.
It's like, am I old?
Oh, Blueberry Faygo. So anyways, I had seen that match at Ring of Honor, and it was excellent. That was the one I told you that opened the show, and there was no way they were going to top it. So I'm glad that it made it to free TV. Hopefully it was as good as. So again, if you haven't seen those matches from Ring of Honor, their pay-per-view was very, very good. So I digress. So that brings us into Collision, right?
So Collision Saturday, Christmas Eve. I got to see this from a hospital. Go figure. So Collision, I watched a couple of it just to pass the time. Holiday Bash, their version, San Antonio, Texas, in the Frostbank Center.
Were you in doing brain surgery?
No, I got this thing like esophagitis.
Got it. Listen, that sounds made up. My cousin Joey, he's got gingivitis and he's doing just fine.
Oh
yeah. It's made up. It's not a big deal.
I was gonna joke with Collision. It's like I said, if we're gonna bring up his, visit the hospital, you're gonna go with that one. I was gonna go with it. Hey, speaking of choking, Brody King losing to Daniel Garcia.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, I hate Brody King. So Daniel Garcia beating him, getting his win, beat emotional win there. He feels like he belongs now after finally actually winning a match. Go figure. They couldn't let anybody go blank on this one, right? I mean, I don't think anybody...
was perfect. In my opinion, that was
Jay
perfect.
Lethal did blank, by the way.
Yes, yeah, and he did because he lost to Briscoe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I thought them giving Garcia the win over Brody made up. I mean, we all knew he had no chance in this tournament, but by giving him that win over Brody, I think that elevated him. He came out better by losing in this tournament, in my opinion, than not appearing in the tournament at all. Would you guys agree?
I agree.
Wait, ask that again.
He came out better by just winning one match because that was the most important match and nobody believed that he was going to chop down the tree, so to speak, than him not being in this tournament at all and just being a side attraction. I think him losing all but that one match made him better than not appearing in the tournament at all.
That and he spent, a lot of those matches taking a lot of punishment. It's like, if you remember, the match with him and Bryan Danielson, Danielson just straight bullies Garcia through that match. And it's like, it was pretty rough. And that's what I was saying. The best thing that could have happened to him was instead of looking like a complete loser, he ends up managing to chop down one of the biggest contenders in this whole tournament.
And, I don't know if we've ever spoken about this and just used the word bully, but apparently Danielson has a reputation of being a ring bully. He takes liberties on guys. He'll stiff you to let you know, hey, man, you got to step up your game. Can you really hang? We've never talked about that. Maybe that's something we need to explore in a future episode. We can kind of just do a deep dive on that. But let's hold that one for now. But that's kind of interesting to use the word bully.
So his entire Blackpool Combat Club persona is basically legit him.
It's a shoot. Yeah, it's a shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the same with Moxley, too. I mean, I wouldn't want to go. I mean, I probably would say the same.
Well,
Claudio's a little bit, to me, not as rough, but Moxley and Danielson, if you're an up-and-comer going into that match, you're going to get beat up pretty bad.
Yeah, Moxley to a degree. I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as Danielson. I've seen a lot of Moxley stuff where it's GCW and what have you, and it's more gimmicky, comic stuff. So he definitely has the light side, but he's also sadistic. He's obviously gets off on the pain with some of the shit that he does. But I think Danielson is really the measuring stick, and I think he believes his role as the measuring stick, and he's give me a chop. Is that all you got?
Yeah,
give me another chop.
Like he said,
because you're going to get three back.
See the Blackpool? He said, "Do you want to see the Blackpool Combat Club get their ass kicked?" He's like, "Yes." He said, "My goal is that I want to see us get our asses handed to us because it means that other people have stepped up their game."
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's a shoot. So I thought the match between Danielson and Claudio was very good, and in hindsight, a draw with these two is perfect. They're a faction. The faction is strong. Mm-hmm. You keep them strong. You have them draw. So that made perfect sense that this match ended in draw.
Yep, time limit draw made. Yeah, I agree.
And of course, this leads to where we're going with this. Is they go to a draw. Garcia upsets Brody, which leads to the last match of the night, where it's Andrade versus Eddie Kingston. Kingston basically, they highlight through the match the dude's got to go if he wants to stay in this. Dude's got to go out there and hit a home run. And he hit a home run.
Well, I want to go back to Garcia just to say also, he's a really good seller. I do like his matches when he's in there.
He bumps his ass off.
I mean, he definitely puts in the work. So whether or not he'll become a superstar, that's up to him. and a lot of luck as well from the crowd and how they catch on to him. But I don't mind him being in this tournament, like you mentioned. If he wasn't in the tournament at all, he would have just disappeared. So,
right,
because they wouldn't have had really a lot of room for him, which is surprising that they're still able to get these other things in too. They're kind of pushing things around. Andrade and Eddie Kingston, of course, it was a surprise to me that they let Kingston go through, but it kind of goes back to the fact that they were his belts. So they started him off weak at first because they had him lose out the gate, and then now he's hit the home run at the end. Actually makes a ton of sense for his type of character.
I agree. And if I had to make a call right now, I think we're going to see Kingston against Swerve. I think this is Kingston to lose. And ultimately, if you really step back and look at this from 10,000 feet, wouldn't this be an amazing swan song story to put him over this strong? I mean, these are the first 2 belts the guy's ever had in his career. And to put them up into a modern 3-way title or a modern Triple Crown championship, who better than Eddie Kingston? He doesn't have to hold it for 6 months. He doesn't have to hold it for a week. Just make him the inaugural, because we all know the guy believes it's real. So why not pay it off with him? And again, this could go either way between Swerve or Kingston. Go ahead.
So again, this is where what you were saying about Kingston is 100% what I agree with. I think you get an incredibly, momentous, feel good moment if Kingston clears the hurdle and beats, Danielson on Dynamite and makes it up there. But this is also why I disputed you in the sense of, like, if wrestling's about storytelling and we're trying to, it's like we're trying to tell a story. It's like, and we get to the thing where it's going to be, the finals for this thing at Worlds End or and whatnot. It's like the final boss, I said, has to be Mox. It's like there's no better final boss for Kingston standing in his way than the former friend, who now is going to give him the worst beating of his life.
But we can also get away from Mox losing by having that result of the 3-way dance that I had mentioned, which was for Jay White to be pinned by Swerve and keep Moxley clean.
Yeah.
But I really do not want to see Danielson and Moxley in the final. I don't. I
don't think we're going to get it. I think the feel-good story, I think the best story you could tell is that Danielson doesn't get the win. And they were setting it up, because Danielson's basically saying, every time we've ever fought, he always has an excuse. I'm sitting here wrestling with a broken, orbital bone, and I don't complain one bit.
So how apropos would it be for him to give the Huracan to that broken orbital bone and then have to stop the match?
Good.
Man, if I'm booking, that's what I'm going with. Danielson can't. He's obviously got the fractured orbital and he's had it through this whole tournament. If he takes an Huracan to the face, stop the match, and Eddie Kingston moves forward. You don't have to beat him that way. You don't have to pin him. It's a ref stoppage, right? So you keep him whole. He doesn't lose any credibility. That's right. And he's had a problem almost every match. The eye's a problem. He's got the patch on it. The Huracan to the face, man. That's the finish. If I'm booking, that's the finish. Morgan, what do you think about that one?
I'm starting to get belief in Eddie Kingston here because I do feel like it's a good story to go through and be like, even if Swerve ultimately wins, you could play up this whole thing of, you got to take the belts from me because they're my belts. I had them first,
right.
And so you got to earn it. If he faces Danielson, there's really it's a different kind of earn it, but it's not the guy who had the belts. So to me, there's a better story there of the guy who has the belts and getting them combined. We said this really when this all first started, Kingston, when he first lost, it was a shock to all of us. Like, wow, this guy is the guy who's put the belts up. They're going to do this to him. They're going to bury him in this tournament, and then they don't. And I think that they got to carry this through. There's no need for Danielson to be in a belt right now. You guys always tell me this. There's no need for the guys who are superstars on their own to need a belt. So, and I believe that AEW does that better than WWE in the sense that, they don't do that. So, leave Kingston with the belt. I honestly, Kevin has already convinced me now that Eddie should win against Swerve. I mean, who has held you up and kind of sacrificed more? Eddie, to me, deserves that mountaintop, moment.
Yes.
And
even if it's only for a week, I don't care. I just want to see him ultimately win the ultimate underdog story.
I mean,
he's the incumbent champion. He puts
people are
both
going to like
belts
Swerve Strickland anyways. They're gonna keep going with Swerve anyways.
As long as Nana keeps doing the dance, he'll be just fine.
They're going to keep going. They're going to keep going with Danielson anyways. Andrade didn't get hurt in this because he won a significant amount of matches. Brody King had a memorable ending, which he was kind of and Daniel he had a good match with Daniel Garcia to end it off. And I mean, I think they've done really well with everybody, honestly. So I mean, this is the kind of thing where if you look at it online, the people that like AEW, the consensus to me is that people want more of this. Now, the problem with it is, one, injury factor. Wrestling guys too much, but two, is it getting old once you do it too much, right? But I mean, that's one of the things that I liked about original AEW was that they always told me that wins and losses mattered. And
right, that died after 2 years.
It died, yeah, it died. Yeah. And when they started going around the country, it died. But when it was in Jacksonville only, it worked. And I feel like this has been a thing that works. And, this group matchup, again, I've told you guys this on some episodes in the past. The death of the number one contender. I think you could make an article about that. You could write a story about that because I want to see the number one contender come back and mean something, the death of the number one contender has been the biggest disappointment for me in wrestling in general, not just AEW, but in general.
So the other night when I was at that arcade I was telling you guys about, there was a guy with an AEW sweatshirt. And I'm like, oh, man, I got to chat this guy up. So as I'm walking by, he looks at me like a man and says, so, man, if I was to ask you who you thought was going to win the Continental Classic, do you have he's like, you know what? He's like, Tony Khan booked week to week. He's like, I have no idea.
Right.
And I think that's the general consensus with AEW right now is it's week to week, which is good and bad. Most of the time it's solid, but sometimes it falls flat not having long-term storytelling. But it really gave me a perspective of, besides the three of us who talk almost every day about this shit, from somebody on the outside looking in, it was interesting.
So they've adopted Vince McMahon's booking strategy.
Essentially, this is what his opinion was. So, and again, it's just a rando in an arcade. So, but he happened to be wearing an AEW sweatshirt. So, there was a tag team match, which was totally forgettable.
Well, I was going to say that next is the AEW Trios Championship match was just thrown in there. It was like, oh, wow, the Acclaimed still is active. Nobody knew because they kind of got pushed out. Kind of like what you're saying with Garcia being in the Continental Classic, not getting him pushed out. The Acclaimed was pushed out because of this. And again, it kind of goes back to the joke of AEW has too many belts to begin with.
I was like, speaking of that, I do feel like that match was like you said, like week to week thing. It's like I feel like they kind of improvised throwing that match out there because it's like I noticed right off the bat, like when Caster went for his rap, I was sitting there like I said, dude, his like lyrically, normally he comes up with something clever and he 100% went for the easiest thing. Yeah, he went for phone in. It's like I said, I don't think he was prepared to come out there today, and they just dropped it on him. Like
this is your bathroom match.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, but it's
very
what
weird,
it is.
Yeah. And I think okay. Question here: with the turmoil that's happening with the Elite, with Mark Jackson's wife, I believe.
Wait a minute. I don't know anything about this.
Matt Jackson's wife. She
works
was
for
the
the
one
company.
that was doing.
Not no more. She don't.
Not anymore. She does. She was doing the costumes, right?
She's leaving.
Yeah.
And she didn't feel as if her family and were represented and defended by the company. They were.
What the hell went down?
Well, with the whole CM Punk situation, she did not feel like that they represented her family and defended her family and backed up her family in that situation. They let them be pushed off the screen and kind of in a wrestling term, to kind of diffuse the situation, right? I mean, I don't know what you would call that, but she felt like that they should be should have been more public about backing her family and their side of the issue.
Okay, so can I ask a question? What was her job at AEW?
Well, from my understanding, she did costumes. She did.
I thought she did merchandising, T-shirts.
Yes, thank you. She did merchandising.
Okay, merchandising. Okay, I thought she did T-shirts.
The internet, and I got to agree with Twitter on this one. I 100% agree with this. We could use the brawl out. We could say whatever we want in that one. But
Dana Massey is her name, right?
Yeah.
This is Dana? Yeah, yes, Dana.
Yes.
People pointed out All In was, the big show for AEW in London. And people were saying, like, they had AEW merch, they had merch for the Elite, and, just your basic, thing. It's like there was no merch for Orange Cassidy, no merch for Swerve Strickland, no merch for this stuff. They said, the fact of the matter is, if you go to the merch stands right now at AEW, they aren't full of merch for the stars, of the show and stuff. It's basically the Elite and nobody else. It's like merchandising is one of the things AEW right now does not do well, in my personal opinion.
So you guys know how much it pains me to talk about that asshole CM Punk. So again, I'm seeing people that I don't see very often, and I go to a Christmas Eve party with my wife's best friend and her son, who is 22, professional wrestling fan. Her husband's a professional wrestling fan, and of course they know that I'm also a very big professional wrestling fan. And he says to me, "Oh, what do you think about CM Punk coming back to WWE?" And I just laid into him with the whole cancer statement and the fact that he's just a cancer that needs to be cut out, and he's terrible for everybody around him, and he causes nothing but problem. He had no idea what went down in AEW with him. And I got to wonder, again, we live in a vacuum because we talk about this shit 24/7. People on the outside that just see him come back and they're thinking, oh my God, he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's a goddamn Trojan horse. And he's going to take down that company from the inside just like he took down AEW. He had no idea he got fired. He had no idea that he had physically threatened the owner of the company behind closed doors, and he was terminated for cause. He's like, I had no idea any of that happened. He actually thought he was going to sign with the NXT. I'm like, dude, wake up. You're being worked. You're a goddamn mark. Figure it out. It's a business.
Real quick,
follow the money.
If you didn't know about them leaving, that lady leaving the company and stuff, were you aware of Chris Jericho's 4:30 a.m. Christmas drunk texting about Brawl Out?
No.
Okay, because
I'm not on Twitter, so.
All right, cool. So, they said something about, they were talking about something or other about the, Twitter, Brawl Out, and I don't know how they got on it, but they're like, well, they said, well, just so you know, pretty much everybody involved has signed NDAs, and they're never going to talk about it. And then, at 4:30 in the morning on Christmas, Jericho jumps and is like, I never signed an NDA. And then some lawyer is up there talking to him and said, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I heard about the lawyer.
Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it's in your employee thing that you probably shouldn't. And he's like, well, I've never seen any employee handbook or any of that stuff. And I was like, I know what happened back there. And he just goes on a rant. And it's even to the point where Jim Cornette is on there tweeting in there. It's like, Chris, shut the fuck.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, Chris, you need to shut the fuck up right now. And then of course somebody.
And for Corny to say that.
Yeah.
Come on.
By the way, somebody did produce a picture that said, yes, there is an AEW employee handbook, Chris. It does exist.
And the NDA is in the handbook? Oh my God.
I don't know if the NDA is not in the handbook, but it's saying hey, don't run your mouth to hurt your company and stuff.
Unbelievable.
Really what it translates to, and I hate saying this, is Brawl Out happened, and Jericho all of a sudden, for whatever reason, decided, how can I make Brawl Out about me?
So just to give you, this is just a quick, read here. So, we know what happened, obviously, but on the post, Steve New is the
lawyer.
The lawyer. And Web is Jericho, Twitter, came out and said, which Web is Jericho, I thought was Jericho, but I guess it's not. So CM Punk and Ace Steel's lawyer reveals only person involved in Brawl without an NDA. And in that, article, I think it talks about Lucy, Steele's wife, is the only one that didn't have an NDA in that situation. So that's what the
was
article.
Was she even involved? Was she?
Was she?
I think
she was there. I think she was there, present in that room.
Okay.
So she's the only one who wasn't, I guess part of the staff or part of the roster. So she's not. Doesn't have it. That makes sense to me. So Chris Jericho commented back and said, "I didn't sign one. ... Okay, so he didn't sign an NDA. So then Stephen New, who is like an attorney from West Virginia. I don't know. I mean, he looks like he's wrestling with Rip Rogers. I don't know. So,
dude, Rip Rogers, that's a throwback to WCW.
So
he played a gay gimmick. It was hilarious.
So apparently he is in that group. So he's definitely going to be on this podcast with Rip Rogers. And anyway, so he said it's in your employee handbook unless you have a special one. We can figure it out, which I don't know what "we can figure it out" means, but either way, then then Jericho responds back and says, "Hey, Stephen New, I don't adhere to an employee handbook and have never had one in 4 years of working for AEW. I've also never signed an NDA in my life, ever. So stop trying to be a bully and making egotistical fantasy brags for your clients and start doing some research." So obviously New must be a client of someone. So start doing some research before you make blanket statements about your buddies, because I saw everything that night, everything in caps, including how Lucy and her husband and best buddy acted and what really went down, ... And since I was in the room and watching her and everyone else in the whole time, ... I know exactly what happened, what really happened. And considering you weren't there and I was ... maybe you should shut your Mark A up, because what really went down was disgusting ... Okay. So that's what Chris Jericho said to him. Well, then, again, this is supposed to be Chris Jericho's own website. Web is Jericho. So was kind of.
Well, he was putting this all on Twitter too. So that's where I saw it.
So New also confirmed that there were NDAs in place. He noted only person who could speak this was about Lucy Guy, Steele's wife. But then Jim Cornette replied to that tirade and basically said, "God, Chris, it's Christmas. Slap Tony's D out of your mouth. You've got Dad's money the next 10 years, and Buckaroos will still let you play with the cool kids. You don't have to tell the truth. Just quit lying. Punk is sorry he made a difference in AEW business, and you haven't."
Which I will say on this thing, it's like, Chris Jericho has made a difference in AEW with their business. That
was a disrespectful
slap. But I mean, realistically, Cornette has the most valuable point, which is this: like, Chris, it's Christmas. No, it's like, shut the fuck up. Nobody wanted to talk about Brawl Out on Christmas Day. Nobody was asking for this.
We could do a whole show on this whole scenario. And again, I missed all of this. I had no idea.
Chris Jericho clout chasing.
That's crazy.
You and the guy in the arcade are clueless.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Are you even a Mark?
Am I a wrestling fan? Yeah, right. I can't believe I missed all. And again, you know what? I stayed away from social media because I didn't want to see the end results of the matches. So that makes sense. I haven't looked at my feeds at all. So, but I mean, I can't believe. And then Corny is not one to point fingers, boys. Let me tell you that. So, hey, listen, fun times. It makes for interesting conversation. Speaking of conversation, should we do our predictions? Did that wrap up Collision?
Yeah, that pretty much wraps up. When I look back at Collision, obviously the other thing that I did want to mention about Collision is we got the great promo with Christian Cage and your girl. But we also got Brian Cage losing to Keith Lee,
yes,
which was weird to me.
There was a spot in that match that Keith Lee caught Brian Cage. My God, that's big meaty men slapping a lot of meat right there. Holy shit, that match wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. I think that Brian Cage deserves some props. I do.
A couple big dudes wrestling like cruiserweights, basically.
Brian Cage can do way more. Both those guys can do way more than they look like they can do.
300-pounders shouldn't be hitting Huracan Ranas for sure.
So the biggest atrocity to me from the Collision Christmas Eve.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Is
I was so happy to see Thunder Rosa come back.
Thunder Rosa comes back in her outfit. Abaddon gets matched up with Abaddon. Okay. So I'm thinking, I'm feeling good. She comes out, and I'm like, okay, I missed you. I have. But then she has to beat Julia Hart and Sky Blue, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Why she would beat that her group would beat their group in a tag team match? It makes absolutely no sense to me. Why you have two girls that have just recently partnered up and
I'm going to tell you why.
Are skyrocketing to the top.
I'm going to tell you why.
Hit them,
That's how you develop programs. She's in her hometown. She hasn't wrestled in 13 months. That's why she won.
Yep.
But
and now this sets up another program going forward.
Why did she have to beat them?
If you have her lose here, she's not relevant.
No, I don't want her to lose. I just don't. I just give her another tag team to fight.
Dude,
Abaddon is going to go to that dark side. Abaddon is going to turn on her. That's my call.
I was going to say, like, you got to sell a pay-per-view match. It's like we're going to go into. It's like we got to cover the fact. It's like, I mean, you've got Julia Hart versus Abaddon for the TBS Championship. This is how you sell the match.
And Morgan, her outfit was snug.
Indeed, it was.
I got no comment on that.
Actually, is that snug or just? It's like I heard a lot of people commenting about like the new variant of Sky Blue and Julia Hart together. You know, like somebody basically put a picture of the two of them hitting their pose in the ring and said,
"That was also
that's our picture right there for the rest of the year." That is your definition of snug.
Let's go into the memory bank. Is that what you're saying?
We definitely need a t-shirt.
So I thought that match. I mean, the match wasn't very good. They played on the fact that they wouldn't let Thunder Rosa get in the ring, which I thought was kind of funny. But we all knew she was going over. There was no chance she was losing this, in my opinion. So, Eddie Kingston, El Idolo, we talked about that earlier. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
They would put Kingston over. And like I said, I see Kingston. This is his tournament to lose. And then obviously we finished up with the whole Christian Cage thing, which actually, we skipped over it earlier, but there was a reading by Tony Schiavone on Dynamite from Christian Cage on Wednesday night that popped me hard. I was laughing my ass off when he was reading verbatim what Christian had quote unquote written. That was absolutely hilarious in my opinion. Did you guys remember seeing that?
Sorta, vaguely.
Oh, it was very good. It was really, really good. He's like, Schiavone, don't call it in like you normally do. And Schiavone had to read it. It was hilarious.
I don't remember.
All right.
Okay.
So let's roll to our pay-per-view. AEW
Before we get
Worlds
to the pay-per-view, we do have more. I got a laundry list of things to do here. All right. So
I thought you were gonna have a special guest or something.
No, we don't have a special guest. Coming up next. Is this day in wrestling history. All right, we got December 26th. You've got 1963. Wow, this is one that's a little bit older. Pro wrestling pioneer Gorgeous George died in Hollywood, California.
Wow.
2 days earlier.
He was the original flamboyant wrestler.
Yeah.
He came down in like a wig and a cape, and he played a Liberace type character. And I would say that he was probably the first. He wasn't gay in real life, but he played the first gay wrestler in that was 1960s.
Really?
Yeah, effeminate.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
He knew how to get that heel heat before there was such a thing as heel heat.
Yep.
1983 on WWE, Madison Square Garden, New York City. Iron Sheik would beat Bob Backlund. 6-year WWF World Championship run. Finish came
and that was
when
Madison Square Garden, was it not?
Yep.
Yes.
And manager Arnold, Scotland, threw in the towel.
Yep.
That's
a historical day because what that did was that set up the Hogan era. They had to get the belt off the Sheik. I mean, they had to get the belt off of Backlund, put it on the Sheik so Hogan could beat the Sheik. That was a very pivotal moment in professional wrestling history.
I bet
that
Sheik
set
was
up the
loving
next.
And
Tiki
like I
baby.
said, cementing Iron Sheik's legacy forever.
1988 WCW Starrcade True Grit took place in the Scope in Norfolk, Virginia. The main event, Ric Flair defeated Lex Luger to retain the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The two title changes took place on the card. First, Kevin Sullivan and Steve Williams defeated the Fantastics, Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton, to win the NWA United States Tag Team Championship, which, by the way, don't you have the United States Tag Team NWA? You have those.
Right here.
Yeah, you got.
Wow.
And later that night, Rick Steiner bested Mike Rotunda to win the NWA World Television Championship. Mike Rotunda, is that related to Wyatt?
That's his cousin or an uncle. It's his uncle.
Wow, okay.
Mike Rotunda, his
Erwin
son,
Archmeister.
and of course, Erwin Archmeister and his two kids, Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh. The more you know.
You had mentioned the Steiners, and it was funny. I was listening to Busted Open's best of, and Tommy Drew said, there was a saying, and we always used to say it when it was a Steiner match, and then Brock inherited it. Boy, you're fighting Brock Lesnar tonight. You better tuck that chin, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, Steiners will beat
they
the
work.
crap
That's
out
right.
of
They beat the living shit out of you. They work very stiff.
Ouch.
Very stiff.
Okay, and the last one, 2004, Ring of Honor Final Battle took place from Pennsylvania National Guard Armory in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is the night that Samoa Joe's record-setting Ring of Honor World Championship run came to an end. Until this event, Joe had reigned as champion for 645 days, a record that stands to this day. He was defeated by Austin Aries. On the same card, Steve Corino returned to team up with CM Punk and took on the Next Generation. Looks like Roderick Strong.
Sure.
Yeah,
he was in Ring of Honor
Dude,
forever.
I have this one on DVD, actually.
There's 23 people in attendance.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but the funny thing is if I give you, like, the back of this, where I give you the actual card of this show, like, how many names are of people that are on this show are now, like, main event relevant names?
Right. I mean, Ring of Honor was the proving ground, right? I mean,
It
lot
really
of the
was.
talent. Yeah, I mean, that was your quote unquote indie when you weren't in the major league. That's where you were. You were building and honing your skills in Ring of Honor. So
Still true to this day, I guess.
Yeah, another excellent week of what happened. Well, what do we call it?
This day
What's
in
the
wrestling
actual
history.
name? This day in wrestling history.
All right, so
how original. Fantastic.
The AEW Worlds End 2023 card coming up this weekend. It is going to be the culmination of all the big storylines, really. Most of the big storylines, I guess. At the very end of the year. Not really the very end of the year. There's more days left. But AEW Worlds End is their last big-time pay-per-view. And on the card, I'm just kind of looking at the list here. You want to go top to bottom, bottom top?
Yeah, we'll go bottom to top, or
okay.
whatever.
I know Kevin has some thoughts on this one. Hook against Wheeler Yuta. To me, that's a bathroom break if I've ever seen one. I don't care about either one of those guys.
It's okay. That's when we'll go get the Antonio's pizza.
I'm almost to the point where it's like, you can't put that on the
Pre-show.
show. Yeah, that's pre-show material right there. I've seen it.
I
think that, and I told you guys this in text, I think that they should go the route of his dad and not let Hook talk, because as soon as he talks, he's 19 years old and he sounds like a 19-year-old kid. So that just ruins it, takes it out of it for me. And we all know he's there for nepotism. It's his father that's in the company, so therefore he gets a break. He's not good. He's not bad, but he's certainly not main event material, in my opinion.
I think the best talking he does is with, when he follows the lead of like Orange Cassidy, where you just
someone else.
one or two quick answers.
Eats his chips. Yep, eats his chips. Yep.
And just goes with it.
Yep.
Next up is Julia Hart versus Abaddon for the TBS title. By the way, the last one was for the FTW title, which, was cool for like a month. TBS title, Julia Hart versus Abaddon. We just saw them in the tag team matchup basically Thunder Rosa won, but I would say this is an interesting battle here. I mean, I expect Julia Hart to win and continue her reign.
I agree. However, I think Julia is establishing a stable herself, and I think she may be recruiting Abaddon.
So spray her in the eyes.
I'll be interested to see how this goes. I fully expect Thunder Rosa to be involved in this somehow. Excuse me. But I think that she's recruiting Abaddon for this stable that she has.
So, Drew, what do you think? Miss to the face?
I think this match will go the distance, and I don't think you'll get an Abaddon face or heel turn out of this match whatsoever. But, I mean, simply put, this will be another win for Julia Hart. This is just, it's like, I think that's a story we'll probably tell for another day. Julia Hart's going to get the win here and establish herself.
I feel like they could do much more with an actual story with this. Like, as I'm thinking of it, it's kind of like, she is the creature.
She's the living dead girl.
Have Julia Hart, win her over emotionally or something, not just spray in the face. She's not a natural human being, right? She's a creature. So, like, something could have happened bad to Abaddon and then Julia become her handler, kind of like Luchasaurus, or what we call Kill Switch is. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's very similar, but to me it makes sense because that's the creature.
I agree. That's an excellent call, Morty. She gets Stockholm Syndrome. Yep, I agree. That's a really good call out.
Thank you.
Cool.
Booker of the year right here. Promoter of the year.
Yeah.
Right here.
Listen, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. You know what I mean?
All right. Then the next one is going to be the Continental Classic. And that's going to be the finals. Well, we won't know who it is, but we know that tomorrow night, Wednesday night, is going to be Bryan Danielson versus Eddie Kingston. I think we've already said we feel a lot of it. I guess the majority feels Eddie Kingston. Drew disagrees.
We've heavily covered this one already.
And then we've got maybe Swerve going over for the gold, and then Kingston Swerve at the Ultimate. So if we said Kingston Swerve, what do you think? Kingston Swerve. I think that in this case, I'm going to say stick with my guns that we said previously, and Eddie comes out victorious. Any changes? Last minute changes?
I just go with Mox and Kingston, but
yeah,
still same result.
All right, this one's an interesting one. Christian Cage, the culmination of the patriarch storyline, I guess. Will it continue? Will it die after this? Who knows? Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland. Former best friends now battling it out for the AEW TNT title. Haven't really seen much of Adam Copeland. You say it's no DQ, so
yeah, it's no DQ.
Obviously, Christian Cage has some helpers that he'll have.
So to that point, we do know that all of the talents that were let go in WWE, their no compete ended on December 22nd.
So you're thinking we might get some Namath?
Mustafa Ali is taking the GCW booking this weekend.
Mustafa Ali, have you seen his Instagram? He is jacked.
No, but I heard he's really snug.
I heard somebody joke on there that he needs to tone it down because this isn't how real people on the indies look.
Yeah, he looks
really
jacked. I mean, he's put in the work.
Okay, good for him.
I wouldn't mind seeing either one of those guys. I do feel like, honestly, let's throw Dolph Ziggler into it as the devil. It's the best solution.
I'll throw you a prediction here. I agree. I think we will see one of these cast-offs from the WWE at World's End. I don't think you're going to see it in Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland. I would almost think they might go the well of, if you've got Luchasaurus and Nick Gage out here, I can see FTR getting involved on Copeland's behalf.
I could see that.
They're good buds. I mean, and they've played it up.
Yeah, where they call themselves Rated FTR, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a good call. You know what, Drew? You now take the honor of Booker of the Year. Good job with that. So what about this, the Golden Jets missing in action here? Chris Jericho has no one to fight
sure he does.
Big Bill and Ricky Starks.
Sure he does. Kota Ibushi. We just haven't announced it yet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's what you think we're gonna do?
I don't know how we couldn't.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. Yeah.
That makes sense. And that's where I was like, this is where I could see them sliding in one of these like recent release guys and stuff like that.
No, it makes more sense what he said.
Hey, the important thing is that we don't get Paul White. It's like Chris Jericho being like, hey, I got my old tag team partner, Paul White. It's like, no. We saw this. That it's not a good idea. Please.
He's gonna stand. He's gonna be like a chess figure. He's gonna stand in one spot like a Harry Potter chess figure. He can't move his hips or his feet. You know, he must have begged Tony Khan to let him go out there, and when he did and became an absolute nightmare meme, that's when you don't. That's when you have to stop. When you become a joke of yourself, that's when you have to stop. And
I would love. It's like I can see Tony Khan mentioning that. It's like, sir, I would love to give you one last match where you bow out to the crowd, but I want to point out once again. Sir, you stand slanted.
Yeah.
Like, it is painfully obvious to us, like, the second the cameras got on you that, like,
you know what the real problem is?
You do not need to be doing this.
His fake hips are designed for a normal person's body. And so he's got a triple X body, but he's got an extra large hip replacement. It just doesn't match. You know, he's wearing skinny jeans, you know, internally he has skinny jeans. His bones have skinny jeans. So yeah, I like because that continues with the Japanese kind of feel, the New Japan feel there. I like that. We know that they just signed him, so we know he's coming. So, you know, I like that. And then you have MJF and Samoa Joe, and then ultimately whatever's going to happen with the Devil. Again, I think that if you said to me that it was, say, I don't know what his name's going to be, but if you say Nick Nemeth or Dolph Ziggler is who we're talking about, formerly known as, I could see that because it would be a better name than the other names that I could think of, like Wardlow and Jack Perry. I would hate those names. But ultimately, the name that really makes the most sense and the name that I think we'll see is, you know, Adam Cole or maybe even Britt Baker or something to do with that. I don't know. But
so let me pitch this. What if the Devil turns out to be 10 people?
I think, to me, that seems as stupid. I
don't
like
is
that
it?
Somebody clearly never saw the aces and eights angle.
That's right.
I haven't seen
Is it?
But
it's Bully Ray. Did you? You know, I was wearing my headphones to watch the match, and somebody actually yells, "It's Bully Ray! We saw this years ago," which I thought was funny. What if it is almost the entire AEW roster that's against MJF, and that gives him a year's worth of run?
But
like it's Adam Cole, it's Samoa Joe, it's Hangman Adam Page, it's Wardlow, it's Britt Baker, it's a gang.
Because they feel like he's the fakest babyface.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a piece of shit.
So they want to put him in his place because he's the fakest.
I'm a scumbag, but I'm your scumbag.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to go back to being a heel, honestly. But
can I also make one of the boldest calls here? It's like I say Samoa Joe wins.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Which would now, and I've covered this. If Samoa Joe goes over, MJF is signed, but we don't know he's signed. Yeah. He could just show up every week and not wrestle. Hey, listen, I am not part of this company. I'm just here on my own dime. I'm not going to wrestle. We can go in many different directions after this event, but we have to pay the Devil off, and we have to expand the line of where is he after January 1st if he's not signed to AEW.
Without a doubt, this is go home time for this.
That's right.
Surprise angle, like go big or go home, but World's End is where you have to pay this off.
I totally agree. That takes us to our main event, right?
That was our main event.
That has to be.
So this happens in Nassau Coliseum, which is New Jersey, which is his hometown.
Okay.
So, you know, I think it's a 50-50 shot to take the strap off him at this event.
I think you'll get the pop for him to come out and, you know, be the hometown hero. But yeah, I could totally see him going for the silence. You know, it's like, but see, that's the thing. If we're going to pay off the Devil thing here, it's like, you know, and MJF's going to lose the title to Samoa Joe. It's like, and there's going to be a payoff or whatnot. It's like, that payoff has to be a shock. Like, it needs a gasp from this audience as to who it is. And like I said,
and at this point, can we do that? It's almost to the point where it's played itself out. So who could it possibly be that we haven't already considered that's going to be a big payoff?
I still think if it's Adam Cole, it will still get you could still get a decent pop out of it. Okay. But I do agree with you. It's like, if it's going to be Jack Perry, it's like they're just going to laugh.
It can't be Jack Perry because that will be a death knell for AEW. That is just going to fall freaking flat. There's no way that nobody in the company would allow Tony to reveal it to be Jack Perry. It would just be terrible. Terrible.
You know what else would be a death knell, as we just talked about it here? It's like, if it turns out it's Chris Jericho. Because then it's just Jericho making everything about Jericho again.
Yeah, but I would rather it be him, because that's something we haven't even considered, than it to be Jack Perry.
Yeah, true. But
and they're certainly planting the Easter eggs with the whole Hangman being slammed on the windshield. They're making you want to think, could it be Jack Perry? And it's not going to be good if it's Jack Perry.
Be better than WWE.
There you go.
That's your bread and butter, man.
We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be an exciting pay-per-view. One thing that you can kind of count on with AEW, and we've said this many times, is that they seem to know how to put on a great pay-per-view. So I actually look forward to that. We'll see what happens. I think there will be some drama, some new talent announced. We'll see. I think this is going to be a good wrap-up to the end of the year. We didn't even get really to any of the WWE stuff because they're kind of building up towards Royal Rumble, and they've got basically Randy Orton, LA Knight, and AJ Styles going up against Roman Reigns right now. That's going to be their push into Royal Rumble. And Drew, final thought on that, since Kevin's kind of out of the loop on WWE.
I mean, it's like, this is Royal Rumble. It's the biggest one of the biggest pay-per-views they do. It's one of the big four. So, like, you have to go with a big match. And it's like, the big match is Orton versus Reigns. Orton coming back from 18-year layoff, going after the guys that put him out. It's like, yeah. Or it's like, we're getting Orton versus Reigns at Royal Rumble without a doubt.
And you're getting AJ set up. You're probably getting AJ and LA getting set up to have to work together with the Bloodline while Orton goes forward to Roman Reigns. That makes a lot of sense. And there's also some rumors out there of Sasha Banks possibly returning at Royal Rumble.
I have heard, I think Charlotte Flair got a pretty sizable contract recently for re-signing with WWE. And like, the rumors I've heard have been around that Sasha wants more than what Charlotte was getting. Like,
ooh, okay.
Good luck with that.
Sasha's kind of put out her point, like, I didn't leave on good terms, so I want a really good payoff if you guys want me back here.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that ends up for her. Maybe it will.
I'm, for one, am just happy that Fast Meat has been found.
Fast Meat?
The Slim Jim car.
Oh,
that's the name of it?
They did find it.
That is the name. They did. They found it in Greater Chicago 4 days ago.
Wait. Where was it stolen from?
California.
Wow.
They made it all the way to Chicago?
Yeah. Hashtag find fast meat was a legit thing, and they have found fast meat.
Of all people to know the social media hashtag is the guy who's never on social media.
Seriously, have you seen this? You've seen
How
this
were you
car.
going to ever do anything with that car? Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thing. Like, as obvious and glaring of a paint scheme that car has on it, I'm sitting there like, I
it's a wrap, but yes.
Yeah, my immediate pro wrestling side of me is like, was this a work by Slim Jim?
Right.
Because
maybe
this sounds like
the Los Angeles police. The Los Angeles police were involved, and somebody did get a tip line, and they tracked the car down to Chicago. And the fear was they were going to chop it up for parts because the car is worth more in parts than it is in the whole. But Find Fast Meat has been recovered, boys, so you can rest easy this evening. Slim Jim car is back in its home garage.
This might be one of the best, dumbest stories of to wrap up the year.
I don't know. There's a lot of them over the year. That's one good thing about wrestling is there's always a good dumb story out there. But anyways, We had a lot to talk about tonight. Man, this was a great episode. A lot to cover because I think this might be our longest episode. If we were in the Continental Classic, we'd already be disqualified and it would be called a draw.
It's a draw.
Thanks again for tuning in to another action-packed episode of And Still, a wrestling podcast. We hope you enjoyed us diving into all things AEW, and I hope you're getting ready to and amped to watch World's End for the final pay-per-view of the year and everything else that AEW and WWE has to offer. Until next week, may your favorite superstars be keeping their championship belts, and may your suplexes always be snug. See you ringside. It's a wrap for this episode of And Still, a wrestling podcast, the undisputed champion of wrestling podcasts.
Where is that Mrs. Claus?